is an introduction to using the hotel speaker platform and the procedure to respond to a guest review. So firstly, here on the left hand side we have the icon that represents the type of establishment the review corresponds to. We work with three types of establishment, so a hotel, which is represented by a bed icon, apartment buildings, which are represented by a building icon, and a knife and fork icon that is for restaurants, cafeterias or coffee shops. Next, beside this, you have the name of the establishment, its location, and below the languages understood and spoken by the management of the establishment. Here to the right, we have detailed information which is classified alphabetically under the categories we use, for example, bathroom amenities, breakfast food, further down restaurant hours. So this is all specific to each particular establishment. From now on, I'm going to use the name hotel for all types just to make it easier. Underneath here we have then highlighted text, which is important information communicated to us by the hotel. Also, you need to read, before starting you need to read this, and also to open the hotel notes, as any other important information will always be written here at the top to help you respond. So then we will go on to the review block. This shows information about the review, the date it was published, where the review was collected, so it could be a booking site or a customer satisfaction survey, for example, the name or the username of the person who wrote the review, or it can also be anonymous if they preferred not to give their name. And then you have the rating percentage for the review. In this case, it has a positive rating of 96%. As it's 9.6, this means it's out of 10. Some reviews can be out of 5 and others out of 100. So just check this percentage here. Then we have the review language detected. If this is not correct or not set, we can change it in the categorization block, which we'll be looking at afterwards. Underneath this, you occasionally have the ratings, so how the client has rated the hotel, and underneath any comments he has made or they have made. Lastly, you'll find the unique identification number, which needs to be quoted whenever you have any communication about this review with either myself or with another team member. Right, now we go on to the categorization block. As I mentioned before, the language here should be the same as the review, which should correspond to the language here. If you're not sure which language this is, you can always copy and paste it into a Google Online Translator, which will help you to identify it. If it's correct, we leave it. If it needs to be changed, you do have a drop-down list where you can find a list of all the languages and just choose the one you want. If this review is dealt with by one of our other teams, you would then go back to tasks list. If it's not, you can look at the video on how to respond to a foreign language review, which will help you. In this case, it's English, it's correct. So now we're going to look at how the reviews are categorized. You have three possible scenarios. No categorization has been carried out yet. This is usually when there are no ratings here. This means that no icons will be colored in green or red. And here you would have, under answer block, review created, awaiting categorization. Second scenario is, as in this case, some of the icons would have been marked in green or red. But here we still have review created, awaiting categorization. And the third option is that here we would have categorized by and the name of somebody. We would have icons in green or red. And here under answer block, we would see awaiting redactor's answer. As I said, we have to include all the ratings into our categorization. It's very important for statistical purposes. However, we do not use these ratings to respond to the guest. We only use any comments they have specifically made. So to categorize, we click once, it becomes green, and you click twice, it becomes red. Or if you click a third time, it goes back to its neutral state. You will have received a complete list of these icons with their corresponding description, and I suggest you refer to it. It's worth noting that if you pass the mouse over each icon, a brief description is given to help you. So the top line also shows the icons that have been most used for this specific hotel, whether it be positive or negative. So we then read the review, or we complete the categorization by checking the ratings. So as I said, we have to check what is 100%, and only the ratings that are 100% will be used as positive icons. If they're under 20%, we can use them as a negative point. Any other ratings in between are not considered. So in this case, we have staff, which is 100% staff. Good cleanliness, which is clean room, which is here. Location, here. Facilities, which would be this icon here, amenities other, but it is not 100% and it's not less than 20%, so we just do not take it into consideration. Comfort, which is room, 100%, and value for money, 100%. So that's the ratings done. Now we will go on to the text. So nice overnight stay, overall stay. Staff is very friendly and professional, so we had service. We also have friendly. It's quiet and calm, so it's on a calm area. The room is quiet, no noise, and it's also in the city centre. If the guest mentions this is not the first time they have been at the hotel, or it's the second or third time, we would then click returning clients. And if they say they would return, then we would use expected client. In this case, neither option has been mentioned by the guest, so we leave as it is. We then go on to the mood. Here, if you look at the drop-down list, you have 4 options. Undefined, which will not be applicable as it's only used until the review is categorized. So it has to be one of the 3 following. If all the icons are green, it would be all positive. If one or more of the icons are red, it would be negative elements. And if the majority or all of the icons are red, we would then use seriously negative. So in this case, it's all positive. Client type, again, from the drop-down list, we have 4 options: undefined, male, female, and group. Obviously, if you're not sure of the name, you can use a page in Google that's called Gender Checker, and if you type in the name, it will tell you if it's male or female or unisex. Obviously, if it's a male name, we would put male, female, female. Group is when the guest mentions they are part of an organised group. And undefined is for all other cases. If we don't know if the author is male or female, if it's anonymous, or it's a unisex name, and this can be used. So in this case, it's Nina, it will be female, so we will put this. We then click on Update. This takes us on to the answer block. As you can see here, it said categorized by the person, at what date, and awaiting redactor's answer. The answer to the review is divided into 3 sections. We have the opening line with salutation, the main body of the text, and a closing line encouraging the guest to return, and a closing salutation. An opening line is always proposed using the author name as is shown here. Depending on the preference of each hotel, this can be modified to be a name replaced with Dear Guest or Hi There, for example, or be left as the username. In general, if there is no specific instructions, we only use the first name of the guest, and if we can't see a specific name, or we don't know it's anonymous, please do not leave Dear Anonymous. We always replace it with Dear Guest. Guest, not client, please. All right. Then underneath, on the second line, we have the thanks to the guest, either for their review, if it's a positive, or thanking them for the time they've taken to write the review, if it's not all positive, because we can't really thank a guest for a non-positive review. I'll just go back to the beginning here again. If you have already used this opening line, or in this case, for example, it says thank you for this kind review instead of thank you for for the time you've taken, and you want to change it, if you just click on pick an existing opening line for this hotel, you then have other options you can use. So you can choose the one that you prefer. Please check to make sure there's no grammar or spelling errors. So they've given a positive review, so I'm not going to thank you for the time, I'm going to thank you for the positive review. And as I said, we'll just put in her first name, which is Nina. Right, so we then have three options to fill in the body of the text. The ideal procedure to save time is to copy and paste a previous response that corresponds overall, and then personalize it to the review if necessary. The three options we have is the first one here, you see previous answers to similar reviews. These examples are from a selection of hotels and are based on the pertinence to the categories being selected for this one. If you use them, just please ensure that the response is relevant to this specific hotel. All right. You can scroll down, you have a selection, and you can also use next to go on to other ones. All right. So if you see one you like and you think it corresponds perfectly, you can use the button copy. Then you see you get the whole text copied directly into the body of the text. This doesn't mean to say you have to use it. You can, for example, this doesn't correspond, the rest does, it's perfect, but I don't want this, I can delete it. You can add in words if you want. You can change this in any way you wish. That's your first option. A second option is if there is something specific about this review that you can't see in these previous ones, we can click on one of the category labels. For example, clean room. And underneath you will find specific responsive for this specific hotel that have already been used. You might find it's not mentioned in all of them because we don't always mention all the positive points, but in general you should be able to find something that will help you to respond correctly. So I'm just trying to think, what did they put? Staff very friendly, quiet and calm. So I shall go quiet area. Regards, it's great to hear that your location was ideal for your needs. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste this here. That as they say, it's near to the city, central location was ideal for your needs. It's always best to change it a little bit if you can, so we're not going to be found out for plagiarism. All right, if there's no information here or in the similar reviews that helps you, don't forget you can come back to the detailed information on the hotel. If it talks about what is in the room, we can go down to room amenities to see if we put slippers, they have a full-length mirror, reading lamps. If the guest says there was no coffee, then you can say they're in all rooms. It just gives you a little bit more information that might help you. If really you find no information at all, or if the review is seriously negative, picking up on specific points, we do have the option to go to the discussion block to ask a question of the hotel. So here we would ask them, For example, can you confirm the restaurant opening times if we can't find them anywhere? Or this review is seriously negative, then we could ask them if they would like us to include any specific comments in our response. Things to note is, once you've written your question down and you click on ask, this will go to the hotel for a response. So the review is then blocked. You will not be able to do anything else with it. All you can do is go back to task lists and go on to your next review. Also, you need to make sure your question is clear, because it's most likely that a return answer will be dealt with by one of the other redactors, not yourself. So you have to make sure they understand what you were asking. And also for the hotels, because they're not always native English speakers, so they need to know what exactly you need to know. All right, so if we don't need this and we've decided this is fine, thank you for considering this saying that staff, okay. It's great to hear our central location was ideal for your needs. All right, then I'd just like to give you a few guidelines about responding to reviews in general. Right, so if it's a short review, there's not a lot of text, we try to give short responses as well. All right, if there's a lot of positive points, deal with them generically and perhaps just include one or two mentioned. Don't repeat everything the guest comments on. And only respond, of course, to what the guest has actually written and not to any categorization or the ratings. If they do mention a negative point, try to sandwich this in between two positive comments. You also have to keep in mind that although we are responding directly to a guest, these reviews are read by potential guests. So we need to keep this in mind when responding and try to give solutions to any negative points raised by the guest, so a future guest will know what to do in that particular situation. Try to avoid repeating negative points or words in a response. Instead, just apologise for the inconvenience and propose a solution, or rephrase using more positive terms. For example, if they say the room's too small, we would say, oh, I'm sorry that your room was not what you were expecting, was not entirely to your satisfaction. Don't say, oh, I'm sorry your room was too small, or that our receptionist was rude. All right? And try not to overly use adjectives. Keep them moderate. We don't want to be, we are absolutely thrilled that you enjoyed our spectacular location, for example. All right. So once we've finished the body of the text, we can then go on to the closing line. So the closing line, the same rules apply as for the opening line. To see other options, you can click on pick an existing closing line for this hotel, and again you can change this if you wish. I like the opening line, but I want to put best regards. So you have encouraging the guest to return, and afterwards the salutation. Here please, it's welcome you back, see you again. We do not interchange them. It's not welcome you back, welcome you again, sorry. So welcome you back, see you again, and do not use warm regards. That is not at all relevant in this situation. Make sure it's written in correct English. There's no grammar mistakes or spelling mistakes. If so, please correct them before clicking. So you read again through quickly. It only takes 2 seconds to read through your response. Make sure you have no spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, and it flows. There's no repetition of the same words. No thank you for this, thank you for that, thank you for the other. And then once you're sure it's fine, you will go on to submit response. So you click here. This response will then go to the hotel for approval. If the hotel approves it, it will then go and be posted on the booking site, or otherwise they can send it back to the redactors for modifications or corrections. Here you have a button, modify my answer. In the first instance, you will not be able to see this while you're on training mode, because your answers will always be treated by a supervisor before going to the hotel, just to ensure the quality of the work we are providing. Once you're off training mode, you will be able to see this, and if you click here, you can change or modify your response once again if you notice there's an error or there's something wrong with it, and then you can just submit it again. You can do this as many times as you want. Once you're sure everything is fine, you then go to back to tasks list and your next review will appear. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send us an email. Thank you.